Okay, in today's video I just wanted to talk about segmented file recording on the Panasonic GH6. So segmented file recording allows you to split up longer video files into multiple files in camera, and it's a feature that can be a real lifesaver. For example, if you're using an external battery solution that fails, so say you're using a V-mount battery or you're using the AC10 power adapter. I'll link to that above if you don't know what I'm talking about there, but the AC10, for example, it doesn't have a lock-in connector, so say that port gets pulled apart and then the camera just switches off. Rather than you having either lost the file or having a corrupt file, you're going to have some of the video there, so up until when the video was last cut apart. So we can find segmented video recording in the video menu on the camera. So if we just jump into that quickly, so jump into the camera, hit the menu button, and then you can see here we've got the video camera, and in the next menu at the bottom we've got the video camera with the sort of three dots under it. It's underneath loop recording, which we talked about in a previous video, which again I'll link to that above. But this time we're going to cover segmented file recording. So if we jump into it, it will be off by default, but I've done just a quick playback test on this just to show you. So I've got it set to 1 minute. The options in there's just 5 options. So we've got off, 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and essentially all that is how often the camera is going to split the file and save it. So if you're planning on shooting an hour's worth of footage, then maybe don't use the 1 minute option, because you're going to end up with 60 files for every hour that you shoot. Although the way that it actually does shoot the video is quite easy actually to pull into the editing software. So when you take the videos from the card, they won't be in an additional folder or anything. They'll just be sequential videos as you'd expect in the normal shooting mode. And then when we kind of jump into, so I've got it, I had it set to 1 minute. I won't show you that because obviously you don't want to just watch a video recording for 1 minute. But when you come into playback, essentially, you can probably just about see on here, it's a grouped image. So I can't play it back, but what I can do, I zoomed into it by accident. Let's come back out of that. What I can do is jump into it as in normal playback, and it breaks it down into 2 videos. So I'd recorded just over 1 minute, so there's 2 videos in there, but I can't watch it as a full kind of playthrough. It won't stitch the 2 videos together for me. I'll have to do that in the edit. So they're essentially just in there as separate files, but the camera knew that it grouped them together in segmented file recording. So now we'll talk about the limitations of it, and one limitation of segmented file recording is that you can't use the MP4 mode. So if we jump into here and jump into MP4, if we come back into the menu, you can just see in there that segmented file recording is not an option, and it tells us it's because we're in the MP4 mode. So unfortunately, if you want to use it, you'll have to use either MOV or ProRes internally in the camera. One nice thing about it actually is that if you've been using the new SSD feature that's come with firmware 2.2, you can actually use that with segmented file recording, which is great. So if the drive fails or the USB lead gets damaged or disconnected accidentally, you haven't lost all your video. And if you're kind of new to SSD recording, I'll leave a link above to sort of explain how you can do it and what the limitations there are. I sort of personally find this is quite a nice feature if you're shooting a mode that doesn't have backup recording. So again, this is something I've talked about in another video where you can set double card slot features, so I'll link to that above. But when that's not an option on some of the shooting modes, you can actually, you've got a little bit of a backup, even if you do lose the final portion of the video. So the reason why I kind of like that is because when I'm shooting things, so say for example, I'll be shooting an event. If I lose the video feed, I'll always have a external mic running somewhere, something like a Zoom H1 or a H4n or something like that. And then if the video feed does go down, I've still got that audio, and I can cut to something else in the event. If it's just looking at people in the audience, or a little bit of B-roll from the room, or if it's just something that relates to what the speaker is talking about. It's obviously not ideal because it's cutting into it's cutting into a presentation that somebody's doing, and I might have to add a little bit of B-roll around it to make it seem a bit more natural, but at least it's not unrecoverable footage. I can actually come back to that, and I can make something of it where if I've just lost the video and the audio, then that's just a hard stop and that's not recoverable. So in that sense, it's quite a nice little feature that you can actually make use of. And I've kind of successfully used this in the MOV or MOV recording mode, and I've used it with SSD as well a few times already. And I haven't had any issues with it in post. All the files match up nicely. There's no sort of pauses or gaps, and it just works. But I have seen people saying that they've had issues where the cuts in the videos, the sort of starts and ends, they don't match up perfectly. And it's impossible to kind of diagnose why that's happening. But I'd I'd probably surmise that that's something possibly to do with third-party audio accessories, possibly wireless ones. So if you do plan to, use this feature, do a quick dry run with it with all the accessories that you plan to use, and then just throw that into an edit and just check that you're totally happy that it does work with all the accessories you're going to use. And then, you're not going to come back with footage that you can't use or anything. But I've used it on slower SD cards and it's worked, CF Express, SSD, and, I've not had any problems with it yet. So, like I say, I think it might be a third-party kind of accessory issue that's sort of happening there. But yeah, hopefully this has helped. If it has, give the video a like. If you want to see more content about the Panasonic GH6, then please check out the playlist on this channel, and please subscribe.